Sylvester Mofokeng, a name whispered in fear in the streets of Johannesburg, his story is one of brutality and defiance. It all began in 1983. Mofokeng, a mere 14-year-old boy, found himself on the wrong side of the law. Petty theft quickly escalated to more serious offences. He became a product of the turbulent times. South Africa in the 1980s was a powder keg of racial tension and violence. The oppressive system of apartheid cast a long shadow. It bred poverty, inequality and despair. For young men like Mofokeng, crime often seemed like the only option. By the early 1990s, Mofokeng had graduated to armed robbery. He became a notorious figure in the criminal underworld. His crimes were marked by a chilling ruthlessness. Fear was his weapon. It paralyzed his victims and ensured his success. But his reign of terror was about to reach new heights. In 1995, Sylvester Mofokeng added another grim title to his resume: murderer. Between April and June 1995, a wave of fear swept through Johannesburg. A string of brutal murders left the city on edge. The victims were seemingly random, their lives cut short by a cold-blooded killer. The police were baffled. The only clue, the brutal efficiency of the killings. This was the work of a professional. Little did they know they were hunting Sylvester Mofokeng. He had embraced the darkness, becoming a remorseless killer for hire. The details of the murders sent chills down the spines of even the most hardened detectives. Each murder was executed with chilling precision. Gunshots to the head, no witnesses, no remorse. Mofokeng was a ghost, moving silently through the city, leaving a trail of bodies in his wake. He seemed untouchable, a phantom preying on the innocent. But even phantoms make mistakes. In 1995, Mofokeng was apprehended. He was convicted of multiple counts of murder, attempted murder, and robbery. The judge, seemingly relieved to be rid of him, sentenced him to 70 years plus life in prison. He was sent to Diepkloof Prison, a maximum security facility designed to house South Africa's most hardened criminals. But even behind bars, Mofokeng's reign of terror was far from over. He had a plan. On March 23, 1995, Mofokeng saw his opportunity. It was a seemingly ordinary day. Inmates gathered in the yard for a prison soccer match. Guards, distracted by the game, let their guard down. Mofokeng, using the commotion as cover, made his move. He sprinted towards a waiting transport truck, jumping inside unnoticed. The truck, its gates carelessly left unlocked, drove straight out of the prison. Mofokeng was free. The news of Mofokeng's escape sent shockwaves through South Africa. How could a man convicted of such heinous crimes simply walk out of prison? The authorities launched a massive manhunt. Every police officer in Johannesburg was put on high alert. The city held its breath, living in fear of the escaped killer. Mofokeng, however, seemed to have vanished into thin air. Months later, Mofokeng resurfaced. He continued his spree of violence, adding to his already appalling list of crimes. His audacity knew no bounds. It was as if he wanted to be caught, to prove his dominance over the authorities, and caught he was. 3 months after his escape, Mofokeng was rearrested. This time there would be no escape. The police, determined to keep him under lock and key, transferred him to C-Max, South Africa's most secure prison. Section 5. A second escape, C-Max prison, a place of cold concrete and even colder steel. It was designed to break the spirit of even the most hardened criminals. Inmates lived in solitary confinement, their every move watched. The outside world, with its noise and chaos, felt a million miles away. For Sylvester Mofokeng, it was just another challenge to overcome. August 1996. A seemingly ordinary visit would provide Mofokeng with another opportunity for freedom. A visitor, unnoticed by the guards, slipped Mofokeng a gun. With a weapon in hand, Mofokeng took control of the visitation room, holding several guards hostage. He demanded a car and safe passage out of the prison. The authorities, unwilling to risk a bloodbath, complied. Mofokeng had escaped again. Section 6. The trial of Sylvester Mofokeng. Mofokeng's second escape was short-lived. He was recaptured weeks later, this time after a shootout with police that left him with a permanent injury to his hand. The authorities, determined to make an example of him, threw the book at him. Mofokeng faced a mountain of charges: 12 counts of murder, 9 other charges, including theft, housebreaking, robbery, attempted murder, and unlawful possession of arms and ammunition. September 17, 1997. The courtroom was packed. Journalists jostled for space, eager to document the trial of the decade. Mofokeng, dressed in an orange jumpsuit, sat impassively in the dock. His eyes, cold and devoid of emotion, scanned the room. He seemed unfazed by the gravity of the charges against him. When asked to sign a document related to his prior convictions, Mofokeng refused, claiming his gunshot wound had fucked up his hand. It was a small act of defiance, a window into the mind of a man who refused to be broken. Section 7. Inside CMAX, South Africa's Alcatraz CMAX prison, a place where hope went to die. Built in 1994 in Pretoria, it housed South Africa's most notorious criminals. Inmates were kept in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day. No smoking, no television, no physical contact with visitors. The aim to break the will of even the most hardened criminal. Mofokeng was one of the first inmates to experience the full brunt of the prison's brutality. The conditions in CMAX were designed to dehumanize. Inmates lived in a state of perpetual lockdown. The silence, broken only by the clanging of metal doors and the muffled sobs of the desperate, was deafening. The air was thick with despair. It was a place where the outside world, with its colors and complexities, faded to a distant memory. Section 8. Sentence to oblivion. Judge Labe, his face etched with a mixture of disgust and resignation, read out the sentence. 145 years in prison plus 10 life sentences. Mofokeng showed no emotion, his face remaining an impassive mask. The judge, in his closing remarks, described Mofokeng as a professional killer, heartless and without remorse, who killed for rewards. He emphasized the cruelty of the murders and the need for justice to be seen to be done. Mofokeng was led away, his fate sealed. The trial of Sylvester Mofokeng marked the end of an era. It exposed the dark underbelly of a nation grappling with the legacy of apartheid. Crime was rampant. The police, overwhelmed and under-resourced, struggled to maintain order. Mofokeng, in a way, had become a symbol of the chaos and violence that plagued the nation. Section 9. Legacy of a killer. Sylvester Mofokeng disappeared into the abyss of the South African prison system. His story, however, continues to fascinate and horrify. He became a subject of morbid curiosity, his name whispered in hushed tones. Some saw him as a monster, a heartless killing machine. Others saw him as a product of his environment, a young man failed by a broken system. Regardless of where one stood, there was no denying the chilling impact of his crimes. Mofokeng's story serves as a stark reminder of the human capacity for both good and evil. It is a cautionary tale about the devastating effects of poverty, inequality, and violence, and it raises uncomfortable questions about the nature of justice, punishment, and redemption. Whatever became of Sylvester Mofokeng within the walls of CMAX remains a mystery, but his legacy, like a ghost story whispered around a campfire, continues to haunt the streets of Johannesburg.